All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our third annual Pasco 50 Human Resource event. It's great to see everybody both at the Hilton and also online joining us today. I want to give a special thanks to our event sponsor, CareerSource Pasco Hernando. I'm sure there's representatives, I believe, in the room in person and also online available to answer any of your questions related to CareerSource. We'll get things kicked off now with our special presenter, Ms. Nicole R. Smith. Nicole is a Panamanian American workforce development specialist, published author, motivational speaker, blogger, podcast host, and dancer. She's earned her bachelor's degree via Division I full ride track scholarship and founded Step It Up Incorporated, a nonprofit dance organization after her graduation. Her experience working with interns in sports, radio, TV, and the performing arts has spanned nearly 20 years, and she's prepared more than 500 interns to enter the workforce, and in 2019 was listed as one of WLRN's Local Women Who Inspire You. And I believe she is in person at the Hilton. Nicole, if you want to come on up. Take it away.
What is it, Thursday? On this Thursday? Okay, great. Fabulous. Actually picked this up. That would help. Yes, indeed. Oh, while they're doing that, let me grab this. Yeah. So while they're pulling that up, I just want to get a general idea of who is in the room. How many of you all have actually worked with interns or have an internship program, or you are thinking about starting an internship program? Thinking about starting? Already worked? Yes, already work with? Okay. And then how about this group over here? Okay, kind of like more of an apprenticeship kind of a little bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Today I wanted to kind of debunk some myths about interns and talk about what a amazing addition they can be to your organization. Just to give you a little bit of background, he did read a little bit about it. So I've had an opportunity to be an intern, start an internship program, as well as grow an internship program. So I interned at Fox News. There was a very interesting opportunity. It was very eye-opening, I can say that. And then Mega 95.5, it's a radio station up in Chicago. And then the softballchannel.com, it was an online TV station that covered everything softball, especially when it was really big back when the Olympics were going and all that kind of stuff. And then at the Adrian Arch Center for the Performing Arts. So there's a couple of reasons why people will start internships. Number one, they're definitely a great way to test out talent. It's a great way for the talent to get familiar with the organization. And it's also a great way for you to see how they respond if it's something that you think that you want to bring them in. And it's also a great pipeline for new, diverse talent. It's a great way especially with a lot of the everything that's going on in terms of diversity and inclusion. It's a really, really great way to bring people in and develop that pipeline. Some organizations, especially if it's a nonprofit organization, like when I started mine, is a great way just to get help, right? In terms of when I first started my nonprofit organization, it was just me. I was doing all this stuff, and then I was getting contracts, and it was growing. And I was like, but I don't have the funds to fully fund another a full-time employee. So what am I going to do in the meantime? Because I can't do it by myself. But it was literally growing pains, right? Organization is getting bigger. How am I going to be able to grow? And because I need that help. So that was actually my introduction to using volunteers and interns and helping to be able to also give back to the community, because I was helping to train up new talent as well as grow my organization at the same time. Some people just want to mentor the next generation. They want to sow into the people who are coming up behind them, and they want to take that time to teach them the craft, kind of almost like an apprenticeship, similar, but they want to teach them the craft and help them to develop and become, the people who are going to take on the torch, because we're not going to all be here forever. Somebody's got to do it. They want to help provide experience to someone who needs it in order to get a job. And it's a really, really, really good way to teach people who are going from maybe like an assistant or entry level to middle management and higher. It's a really great way for them to learn how to become leaders, because if you cannot lead an intern, how are you going to lead a team of employees, right? So it's a really great way to learn, to learn on them. Sorry, no. Learn what to do, what not to do. No, but in terms of, it helps to develop leadership skills. Okay, so let's talk about the impact of it. Just so with an organization that I did help from 2012 to 2021, it was a smaller organization, so they only have about 100 people in the organization. But in that organization, we were able to convert 35 interns from interns into employees, either in a part-time or full-time capacity. And then the people who we were not able to convert, because of the connections that we had in the community, even if we weren't able to get them hired in with us, because we were connected with other organizations, we were like, we don't have a position, because we didn't have, the positions didn't open up a lot. So we may not have anything now, but we do know, we work closely with this PR company. We work closely with this cruise line. We work closely with whoever. So even if we didn't have room for them here, we were able to connect and get them into other places. So in those years, we did about 57,000 internship hours, which is the equivalent of about 27 full-time employees. So it's no small numbers here. It's no small bananas. They were doing a lot of really, really great things. So in terms of statistics, many Fortune 500 companies retain over 80% of their interns. That's pretty huge, especially when it's done right. They have to be doing something right, and we'll talk about that later, okay? And 50% of employers had a 5-year or higher retention rate. So that's the difference between somebody coming in, you interview them, you bring them in, and it's like, oh, okay, and then they don't like it, and then they leave. Especially these days. Look, I have a 23-year-old, my goodness, and she just graduated from Tuskegee University, HBCU, and she, like within 3 months, she's like, oh, I don't like it anymore. And I'm like, no, you need to stay and see it through, right? So that's the difference between coming in and testing the waters and, oh, I don't know if I really like it, as opposed to, man, you came in, you interned, you love this organization, you want to give your full time, your attention, and then that way you already understand the culture of the organization, all of those things. So by the time you put that money behind insurance and all of those things, you're not going to have to retrain, because they already stuck through it, and now they're devoted to the company, and now that retention rate stays a lot longer, especially within those first 1 or 2 years when you have 23-year-olds. But that's my issue. I'll work through it. Okay. So the importance of internships, as I was preparing for this, it was kind of funny, because I couldn't have said it literally better myself, why internships are really great. So take a listen.
This is Oli KFO live on softballchannel.com. This is Nicole Gonzalez. She was going to ask me questions today, but instead we're going to ask her questions. So let me get my little paper out here. How did you get involved with softballchannel.com anyway?
I got involved with the softball channel because I was going to school for broadcasting, and I was able to intern there, and then everything just kind of worked out, and now here I am having an awesome opportunity to have people like you interview me. Who would have ever thought?
Oh, I don't know. So how has it been to meet me?
It's been life-changing. Like, my life is just never going to be the same ever.
So tell me what you do know about me.
I know that you are an amazing hitter, and I know that you used to take it to the Bandits last year. We had an amazing year. So this year, we're expecting to see some of the same thing. Are you waiting to just kind of put it on them for today? We're just kind of getting them warmed up, because we know you're amazing.
Well, actually, it's a little too early in the season to peak. So right now, I'm just trying to get a feel for the game, get back in the swing of things. And aren't you a Bandits fan? You want me to lay it on them?
I love all NPF. Are you kidding me? This is softball channels.
That's a good answer. It's a good answer.
It's all about the love.
So you want me to do good today anyways.
Are you kidding? Absolutely. And then when you get off, I'm going to go over there and say the same thing.
So there you have it, a true reporter for you. That's Oli Ho signing off.
So you're listening to the first 5 minutes of this, right? And you're really all excited now. Yes, I'm going to get an intern. Woo, yeah, let's do it. But somewhere deep inside, it could be buried way in the back of your head, or a coworker or somebody's like talking into your ear, right? Because the experiences that I have had when talking with people, and they're like, oh, and they're in the same position that I was. Oh my gosh, I need it. I'm like, get an intern, and they're like, oh my God, an intern. They're, I mean, and it's just like, oh my, well, what kind of experiences have you had, right? Because I've had amazing experiences, but I cannot tell you the number of people have rolled their eyes and they're just like, oh my God, I'd rather do it myself. Da, da, da. So, right. So here we go. Some common myths, right? Now, you don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to, or you can. How many of you ever have thought about this? Or perhaps it's something that you have actually experienced, right? Common myths about interns, that they're afraid of work, that they won't work for free. They are entitled. They always want their hand out. What you gonna do for me, right? That they're lazy. The quality of their work is terrible. They're unreliable. And the best one, oh, we don't need to hire somebody. We could get an intern to do it. Words that just make my hair stand up on the back of my head. No, you can't do that, huh? Oh, in the past, you see? Yes, we could get an intern to do it. Yeah. I reformed. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So have anybody ever had an intern and maybe they lived up to some of these myths and stereotypes, right? Because stereotypes for a reason. We hate to say, oh, stereotypes, but there are stereotypes for a reason, right? You have an intern and they did do everything on the last slide. And they're like, did you turn that report in? And they're like, give me a minute. And that's how you feel. You just kind of want to just, these are real feelings, okay, that I'm expressing here. It's all coming from experience. You're like, what the heck was I thinking? Why? Why did we bring on this intern? They're terrible. They're this. That's you. What was I thinking? What was I thinking? So I'm here to offer you a little bit of hope, okay? One of the things that I like to take it all the way back to is this philosophy of Ubuntu. And it means I am because we are. And I want to give you the exact definition. So Nelson Mandela describes it as the profound sense that we are human only through the humanity of others, that if we are to accomplish anything in this world, it will be in equal measure due to the work and achievement of others. I say that because understanding that when you have an intern, they are important. And what happens is people tend to treat interns like they're less than. They're just extra people in there. They're like, oh, they're like my gophers. They can just go do. So, but the thing is what you get out or what you put out is what you're going to get back. So if you're treating them like they don't matter, then they're going to be like, well, I don't matter. And that's what they're going to live up to. So understanding that in order for us to be successful, whatever it is in your organization, however you're going about it, if I am treating them like they are worthy, if I am treating them like they matter, if I am treating them like what they are contributing to the organization matters, then not only am I going to be successful, but they're going to be successful. And we have to rely on each other in order to do so. We can't have one without the other and think that it's going to work out, because it just doesn't work that way. It's just a really pretty way of saying karma. Okay, this is it. All right. So I've discovered that through communication, care, and connection, you can find and create interns that will sing your praises to the point where when it comes to recruiting, you're not even having to recruit anymore. They're doing it all for you because they've had such an amazing experience that they're going out and telling their friends and their families about the amazing experience that they had. And then you're getting employees behind it, and they are going to be your biggest supporters. So let me just give you a little examples of some things that we've done in the past. So let's start with communication. During the interview or during the orientation, be sure to communicate the mission and the vision of the organization. When you're sitting down in the interview and you're talking about it, ask them questions, like little things that I'm always telling my kid, like, look, this is what they're going to ask you. So be sure to be ready, right? Ask them about the mission and vision. Are they here just because they need to get credits and they're just looking for any internship and they're just gonna, they just need to get something on their thing so they can graduate? Or are they really passionate and interested in the field that they're applying for? Do their values match up? Does their passion match up? You could tell a lot of that from day one before you even bring them in, and then go through that whole cycle of, I don't want to be here, and then they're unreliable, and da-da-da. You could cut all that out right there at the very, very beginning. And be clear, right? Because you see right here, it says MISSI, right? Be clear about what your vision is. Be clear about what it is, because that could either say missile or mission. But if you're not clear and you leave it up to interpretation, it could have two very different consequences, very different answers, okay? Laying out expectations. Okay, when you come here, we're expecting 2 days a week, 8 hours, or 20 hours a week, however it is. This lay out what is expected, because a lot of times people have not thought through an internship program. They're like, oh yeah, let's bring in an intern, and then they come in and they're sitting there and the intern's like, well, what do you want me to do today? And you're like, let me, just whatever you think, right? So, well, whatever they think might be sitting down with their legs up and, hey, I'm on social media, I'm doing research. But that's not what I wanted you to do. That's not what you laid out. Lay out those expectations. Respect your organization and respect your company enough to think it through so that you know what these people need, because you wouldn't do that to an employee. An employee would not come in on the first day and be like, what is my role? Like, what is my job description? And like, oh, just do what you think. Like that's not a thing. So why would we expect that of an intern, right? Who is coming to learn from you nonetheless, which means you need to give even more guidance. Not less guidance than you would to an employee. You need to provide more. Tap into the skills that they have. So during the interview, or even after, during the onboarding, one of the things that we do is we have people fill out a getting to know you type of situation. And it's just like, it's all voluntary, but it's like, we just want to know a little bit more about you. Like, what do you do? What are your hobbies? What are this? What are that? And then you kind of discover other things, because let's just say, for instance, an intern comes in and they are in IT, right? And that's what they are passionate about. But on the side, they have a wicked videography business. And that's what they're doing on the side to do whatever. If you find that out, find a way to integrate that into what they're doing, because now they're bringing their whole self. They're able to really tap into who they are and be able to make that opportunity even that much better within the organization. So really find out about who they are. Tap in. And especially, I love college kids, right? Because first of all, I get the benefit of college education without having to go back. They're bringing it all to me. They're getting the latest tech. They're getting the latest information, the latest of everything. And they are just waltzing right in your door with it. You don't have to go pay nobody because they paying for it. Hey, I'm not saying take advantage of people. That's not what I'm saying. But also recognize a gift when you have one. So ask them, what are you learning in school, especially if it's something that is tying into the organization in the field. Like if it's marketing and they're like, hey, what did you learn in class? And we learned about this new. Oh, well, let's see if we can implement it. Let's see if it works here. Do you have a case study, right? Because all this stuff, I love to tell people, I was like, all that stuff in the books, that's all great. But when you get here, it's a whole different story. I bet you it's different. Yeah, but in class, they said, oh, I'm sure they did. But watch. Let's see what really happens, right? So take that, the things that they're learning, bring it in, have them try and implement it, test it on something that you're doing at your organization. First of all, it's going to make them more invested. And now they're also, they're taking what they're learning in the classroom into real life, and it's making a difference. And they're trying to see all of these things. And then maybe they could tell their professor, nuh-uh, because you know how we know, because we tried it, but we're not talking about that. So whatever it is, not only looking surface directly in terms of the direct, obvious, oh, I applied to be a PR intern, but what else? Maybe they're an artist and you have an event coming up and marketing needs to create something for graphic design. We've had like interns that would create something for an event that was having, and our graphics department loved it and they implemented it into it. Come on. Now they have that for their resume, they have it for their portfolio, they have it for whatever, or they just have plain out bragging rights, right? But it makes them feel valued, and you have new information all the time coming in. So be open to that. Be open, even if it's stuff that I'm gonna be honest, even if it's stuff when it's just like, okay, let's just try it. Try it on something that if it doesn't work, is not gonna hurt anything, right? But just be open to it because you never know what can happen. Care. All right. So this is a very, very hot subject. I'm not going to go too far into it. We can a little bit later, but I'm not going. But in terms of care, thinking enough to say, should the internship be paid? Should it be unpaid? There are pros and cons for both. And I personally think that organizations and businesses that have unpaid internships have to work harder and should work harder to make the experience that much better, because we all know money isn't everything, but it's a lot. I'm just trying to tell you, I'd rather be going through a rough day in a Beamer than a rough day in a Pinto. Just saying. It's not everything, but it helps. Okay? So I wrote a blog about it. For everybody who's here, who's attending or whatever, I put it in the resources to send out. I wrote a blog called the Case for Unpaid Internships. Now, let me start by saying, I believe if you have the money, do it. Make it, write it to the budget, do it. But a lot of people are so like, oh, pay the interns, and they don't even think about it. I've had the experience of working with paid interns and unpaid interns. And let me tell you, those unpaid interns come after it. They are hungry, right? Because they usually have had to sacrifice a little bit more, and they know that they don't have time to play, and it's not just coming in to get a little paycheck. I don't even really care what's happening. I'm just getting some extra money on the side, right? So, but like I said, we're not going to go too far into this, but I was very passionate about it, so I wrote a blog post about it. Read about it later. Okay, moving on. Where is their workstation? Right? If I came into your organization, if you have an internship program, or if you're thinking about starting one, where is it? Is it in the broom closet? You open it up, there's the brooms and the cleaning solution, and then the intern desk? Is it like where is it? What kind of equipment do they have, right? Literally, I've worked with people where the intern didn't get anything done because they couldn't get the computer on, because it was like from like 1975. They didn't even have computers back then. It was like tapes. Anyway, I digress. But you understand what I'm trying to say, right? I suggest maybe 1 or 2 generations, like after your organization upgrades, like don't throw those out. Keep them for the interns, but they're still good enough to use. But don't keep that old stuff, because then you come to them, hey, did you get that report done? And you're like, well, I'm trying to turn it on for the last 3 hours. Then you're mad at them because they can't get anything done. And then you're like, oh, these interns are unreliable. Are they though? Or is it your stuff that's unreliable, that's keeping them from having the experience, which then makes them say, I don't want to go back, which also then makes them say, I don't like it here, which then makes you say, interns suck. No, it's not them. I will continue. Okay. Is their time being used wisely? This talks a little bit about what we were talking about earlier, right? Put some thought into what you were doing, because there is nothing worse than just being in that as an intern, coming up and you're like, yes, you get there, you're on time, you're sitting there like, okay, what am I going to do today? And that person is like, I don't know. Let me get to you. And then you have a meeting, and then a phone call, and another meeting. And I'm still like, how can I help? And it's like 2 hours later, I'm coming. Hold on just a second. And now at the end of the day, literally all they've done is ask you what they can do to help. They haven't been onboarded into any type of anything that could even give them the opportunity to be proactive in what they're doing. They can't even do that because you didn't even take the time to be like, hey, here's a computer that's not from 1975 and you can log in. At least hook them up with IT, give them a direct line or something, help them help you, right? You haven't thought through it, or just. And the thing is, even if you sit down and you think through it and you have a plan, we all know how businesses are. We all know how the day-to-day is. Of course, it's not going to stay that way. But at least if you have 6 meetings that pop up, you already have at least an itinerary. Here's 3 or 4 projects that you can do. If you can't reach me, but this is the person who you can reach, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So because we know how life is. But if you have not given thought enough about what you need in order to help them, why do they want to keep coming back? Why do they want to give thought? Why do they want it? Because they're going to be like, you're wasting my time. And let me tell you, the worst thing that you can do is waste somebody's time, right? You can never get that back. You can waste somebody's money. They can make it back. They might be mad at you, but they can get that back. Once time is gone, that's it. Don't waste people's time, including the interns, because they are people too, and they are just as important. You would be livid if you walked into your boss's office and was like, hey, what do I need to do? Then they're like, let me get back to you. Well, maybe not because you're getting paid, but still, you're just like, what? And again, money isn't everything, right? Sometimes it's like, it's not about the money. It's people want to make a difference in the world. They want to make sure, they want to feel like they matter and what they do is contributing to society or a paycheck, something. But, they just don't want to be, look, if I could have been standing here all day, I'd rather I would stand on the beach all day if I'm not going to do anything. Let me waste my time. You don't waste my time. I'm free to waste my own. Don't waste it for me. I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay. Are there contributions woven into the organization? So let me give you an example of Anya. So she was actually a high school intern, which a lot of times we wouldn't do, but she had such promise and she was about it. She knew what she wanted. We're like, you are too focused and goal oriented for us not to use you. So be open and be flexible to suggestions. She was a photographer. She knew that's what she wanted to do. So we had this, it's called Ailey Camp Miami. And so what she did is she photo documented the entire experience from when they were getting off the buses to lunches to all these kinds of things. And then what the organization did, they took all those pictures and they rolled it into the video that they played for all the donors at the gala to raise a whole bunch of money for arts education. And those were her pictures. So not only was she sitting at the gala as one of the guests, not like at the table, but they were like, they were there, but not there, but they were still there. So watching, and she's like looking at all these donors, these people who have all this money who want to give, and they're like, oh, look at these pictures. And she's just like, oh my gosh, that's my picture. That's my picture. That's my picture. And it's raising money for arts education to help kids build self-esteem. You can't, I'm just getting chills just thinking about it again. It was amazing and beautiful, and that's one of the things that we've done. We have this. We would do so at the Performing Arts Center. We would at the internship program. One of the things that they would do is they would give an end of semester project. But in this particular case, the marketing director was like, we want to figure out how to market to college age kids. So I was like, well, we have a whole slew of college age kids that come in. They were like, beautiful. Let's get them some pizza, ask them what they thought. They got them in a room. They were like, hey, what do you think about this design? You're a college age kid. Would this get your attention? Would you pay this much for a ticket? Would you do this? Would you do that? Would you do this? They were like, yes, no, this sucks. Literally, I was like, and that's the thing, right? Don't ask people for their opinion and don't be ready to get it, because they were like, listen, this doesn't really work. Don't really like it. This could work. Maybe you could do this. They took all of that information, and that's how they helped to develop the marketing for the kids who were literally in the room to take back to their schools. They were a part of that, and they got free pizza, so that's always good. These are some other softball channel interns that we would send them out to actually do the actual interviews and then slide them in and put them in shows and give them credits. And they had stuff for their reel when they were going out to try to apply for jobs. Using it, letting their stuff know that it's important, not just giving them all the filing all the time. I'm not saying don't give them filing, right? Because that's a reality of life. There's nowhere you're going to go. You're not filing unless you have an amazing assistant. I'm not there yet, but maybe, but at least letting them know it's a part of the process, but it's not the only thing that they're doing. It's not the only thing. Shoot, you wouldn't want to sit and file all day. Who wants to do that? Well, maybe some people do, but that's not me. So just making sure that what they're doing matters and it's woven into the organization. We've had interns create the logo for the internship program. Actually, on that one slide where it said Arts Interns, that was created by an intern. by a graphic design intern who was then able to use it for her portfolio. But look at the impact that she's left. She's not at the organization anymore. That was almost 4 years ago, but we're still using the logo. Integrated. She has that. She could say, I did that. And then the last thing is connection. Making sure that they are ingrained into the program, right? So if you're having all staff meetings, bring the interns in. Let them sit in on them. Connect with them on LinkedIn. I tell all of our interns, connect with the people who you are working with in LinkedIn when you were there, because when you leave, people ain't gonna remember you. I'm just being real. I'm like, look, take advantage of it while you're here now. You know, you have that opportunity. Connect with them because LinkedIn is the way of the future. If you go on company volunteering opportunities, take the interns with you. Let them be a part of everything that they can. I'm not saying take you into the budget meeting, but take them where they can. Or maybe they come in and then leave when it gets to the good stuff. Company-wide trainings. If you're doing sensitivity trainings, diversity trainings, include them in it. When they're celebrating things, like we have like National Intern Day. I'll show you a picture of that. Company events. We've had PR interns who get to go out to the TV stations with the VP of PR, who will go out and watch to see how that happens. Include them in. Don't let it be like, oh, we're doing all this. Oh yeah, and then the interns. Like, they should be integral woven into the organization. It's not all of us and then no, it's all of us. Ubuntu. Okay. This is a meeting where the interns, what we would do, we had different department heads. Like if you had the VP of PR, the VP of operations, they would come in and do different classes to let them know a little bit more about each department. So not only if they came in, they were learning about marketing, but they were also understanding how marketing ties into accounting, which ties into this, which ties into that, so that they understand that it's not just what they're doing, but everything that they do also affects other people in the building, to get that understanding of what that is. This was when we celebrated National Intern Day. We had the whole company come out and celebrate. We had past interns come back to talk to current interns about the experience that they had and the jobs that they were able to get because of that. This was my intern. Love her to death. And I'm a big encourager. So one of the things that I did, because a lot of things I was hearing from the interns is that, when they're going into the professional realm, that they feel like they're unheard. They're like, oh, because they're young, that people don't want to listen to them and listen to their ideas. So I wrote a journal called Words of Wisdom for Young Professionals. And it's affirmations. You are seen, you are heard, you are important. Don't let it because you're the youngest in the room that your voice doesn't matter, because it does. And then, other little tips like beware of workplace relationships. Just saying, little things, just little tips for people when they're going into their first years of college that, you didn't know till it happened. And you're like, oh my God, but we'll talk about that later offline. Okay. So like I was saying, between communication, care, and connection, you can create an army of loyal people, loyal interns that will not only become a part of the fabric of your organization, but that will also be a mouthpiece. And there's no better marketing than word of mouth. And we all know that. Nothing says, come on, like a friend that says, hey, let's do this. Okay. This is my corporate development program. If you're interested in it, if you're thinking about developing your internship program and you want some help, that's what this is there. You can apply for it and I will help walk you through it, starting from the very, very beginning in terms of even thinking about how to do it. Do I want to do paid? Do I want to do unpaid? What does it look like? Making sure that you have things in order, in line, to help you walk through the process step by step. I will help you to do that. And then these are the journals that I was talking about. I have a whole slew of them, because see, what happens is I tend to have to encourage myself. And so when I'm feeling really I start writing affirmations for myself, and then I'm like, oh, maybe other people need it. So every last one of these is kind of one aspect of my life. So I'm just being very vulnerable and transparent. So I do a lot of affirmations for a lot of people, because we all need encouragement at some point in time. So that's why I do that. So that's where they are. And are there any questions? Does anybody have any questions about anything internships wise, life wise? I'm just kidding, not life, just internships, maybe. No? Okay. Well, I just want to thank you. This is my contact information. Follow me on all the platforms except for Twitter. It's there, but I don't really use it because there's just too many. I need to get an intern for that. But just, that's all of my contact information. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear how this impacted you. I would love to connect with you. This is a very, very real thing. I'm very passionate about it because interns are our future. I sound like we are the world, but it's whatever. But still, they are our future, and we cannot just stare our future in the face and ignore it because that's going to be on us, right? And if we don't like where the world is in 10 years, it's our fault now. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it, and I'm going to turn the mic back over.
Thank you so much, Nicole. It was a wonderful presentation. We are now going to move into the discussion panel portion of the program. We're going to kind of digest a little bit of what Nicole talked about and also get a little interactive with the crowd through some text polling. I'd like to welcome up Jacob Goodlow. He is the spring intern for the Pasco EDC. He'll be leading the discussion today and joining us in introducing our panelists. Take it away, Jacob.
All righty. Thank you for having me today. It's been great. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panel today. If the panelists could go ahead and tell a little bit about your organization and stuff like that. So first, we're going to go ahead and introduce Jackie Eden. She's the Assistant Director of Career and Testing Services for Pasco State College. If you come up here, sit up here for me at the panel. And then Nicole, if you could also join us up front at the panel also.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jackie Eden. I'm the Assistant Director of Career and Testing Services at PHSC. I have a lot of duties under my belt. I do classroom presentations on resume tips, interviewing tips, and quite a few others. But I am in charge of the PHSC internship program for several of them, except the health programs. So I'm in charge of the ASM business, the IT, the marketing management, accounting, financial services, drafting, paralegal. So if you are interested in information about our internship programs, I have brought over some items, and I can also go over a little bit with you, during our panel discussion.
Awesome. Next, we have Jennifer Batchelor. She is the Career Specialist for Pasco County Schools.
Yeah, my name is Jennifer Batchelor. I'm district level career specialist for Pasco County Schools. And we act as the major pipeline for your future employees. So, and I know you talked a little bit about high school students as interns, and there's a lot of holdback from that, but we also have 18-year-old graduates the summer after they graduate. And it's a wonderful opportunity to expose the graduates to the opportunities that are available right here in our backyard and to help grow our workforce and keep the students here in Pasco County. There's a need. So we're here to talk about how to access us for potential interns as well.
All righty. And then we also have a remote one, which is Susan Mickey. She's a Career Service Director with St. Leo University.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Mickey, Executive Director of Career Services at St. Leo University. Our students are located everywhere, including our traditional residential campus located in St. Leo, Florida. But we also have students at 9 regional centers and throughout the U.S. With our online education. We have a very diverse student population with approximately 3,000 active and veteran students. And while I've only been with St. Leo less than 2 years, I do have over 15 years working in higher education, helping employers connect with top talent. I'm happy to be your contact at St. Leo University, and thank you for including me today in the panel.
Thank you, everyone, for being here for the panel. And then, so now we just want to learn a little bit more about the audience. So if everyone in the room and joining us remotely could go ahead and take out their cell phones, and we'll go ahead and text Turner Arbor 288 go ahead and text 22333 and then answer this question just so we get a little test run going. And then we'll go ahead and answer more questions after.
I was a D. Yeah.
Dr. Moore, you're probably D. This is when I'm not sure Zoom is quite a good thing because it's like meeting after meeting after meeting.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Alrighty, so hopefully everybody was able to go ahead and do that. We're gonna go ahead and roll right into one of our first questions, which is, what challenges have you faced in retaining and recruiting employees and as Pasco's economy recovers? So, if you want to go ahead and elaborate on that, Jackie or Jennifer, whoever wants to go ahead and go first, what are some challenges and stuff that you guys have seen since we're trying to get back into normal, life?
I really don't do a lot of hiring, so I haven't had a lot of personal challenges. As far as the college goes, we have such wonderful benefits and it's such a great place to work at. We don't have a lot of retention issues either. So I may pass on this question.
Yeah, and in my position, I'm not over hiring for the district, but I can tell you there's probably going to be a little bit of a struggle as we go back to everybody's in the classroom, and I can assume that in a business and in an office, people are going to have the same issue having their employees come back to work from the home. I mean, to work in the office as opposed to working remotely.
Very true. Susan, would you like to elaborate a little bit on the answers? It seems like everybody, the most popular one is struggling to recruit and retain the skill
Yeah, I
level needed.
think I could add a little bit. We've done a little surveying with our employers, and one of the areas that continues to come up in regard to recruiting has been the uncertainty of what's going to happen when we get these new roles filled. Will they be located remotely? Will they be located at the traditional site? And that also runs into students being, and our students and candidates being a little uncertain in how they apply. So one of the things we've really tried to encourage, and Nicole spoke about that, is the communication and connection piece. There has to be a little more communication between our employers and our possible candidates to kind of open up and dispel some of the concerns about the hiring process, but also retaining that talent too.
Very true, very true. So when it comes to struggling with the skill level needed, could any of you guys go ahead and elaborate where you think the skills are lacking or how we could go ahead and improve that so that these Pasco companies can go ahead and get that skill level that they're looking for?
Well, can I jump in real quick too, Jacob? I want to add as well to this, from an economic development standpoint, we've had a lot of companies who are interested in the area come to us and bring a model that we haven't really seen before of a hub for their employees who can commute in maybe once or twice a week or even once or twice a month to an office setting, but then still keep a majority of their time at a work from home environment. And we've seen poll after poll show around 65% of workers wanting to remain at home in some capacity, but still come in every once in a while. And from an EDC standpoint, this is something that we have to adapt with our training partners as that becomes more prevalent in the business world. So any experience with that from Nicole, or how the colleges are kind of adapting to that change as well would be interesting.
So yeah, if you guys could elaborate, like, is there any incentives or anything that you guys are doing to help students be able to work from home and kind of do that virtual that it seems to be moving towards? Have there been any like special training that goes into virtual or anything along those lines?
Well, at the college, we were very lucky in that we have a great academic technology department. So when the instructors all went online and the students all went online very quickly, they were able to get up to speed very quickly and learn. The instructors that weren't teaching online, they had a 2-week training period, and we were able to really train them and to help them do that. And then there were some students that maybe didn't have the computer equipment through the CARES funds. Through the CARES funds, we were able to give them laptops if they needed, or any kind of equipment that they needed. So we were really quick in responding to some of these issues. So I feel our college really responded well, and I'm very proud of the job we have done in helping those students make sure that they graduate and making sure that everyone stayed very safe. So very, very lucky at PHSC.
Same with Pasco County Schools. We offered a lot of different platforms for not only our students, but our employees to work either 100% remotely or do it in a hybrid. So they had some students in class and some students online. But one of the things that I think that the whole COVID for working remotely is gonna have a new challenge for employers, is that there's another bargaining chip that your interviewees and your potential employees have now, because some of them are going to be looking for companies that offer the ability to work remotely, or like Turner said, come in once a week or come in once a month or something like that.
Alrighty, that was a great question. I'm gonna go ahead and move into our next question that we have, which is, what is the demographic of your new hires, and has it changed over the past year, or do you anticipate any type of change? We can go ahead and start with Jennifer. When it comes to at the school, have you seen a different type of demographic, younger people coming in, or just more people of color just trying to get into Pasco County?
I think that we are growing as a school district, becoming more diverse, student body wise, but also with our employees. I don't know if the past year is a good gauge, but yes, Pasco County is definitely growing.
And then Nicole, if you could go ahead and elaborate on that. You were talking about a little bit of diversity and inclusion in your presentation. Have you seen a lot of interns who maybe come from different backgrounds who are trying to break through and really open those doors for themselves?
Yes, absolutely, we are. And what's been very critical in that is not so much them coming to us, but how we're looking outward. So we've done a lot of purposeful recruiting in areas where we just maybe not would have thought about. So across the board in terms of accessibility and everything. So we're reaching out to like the Lighthouse for the Blind. We're reaching out to an organization that we work with that works with the deaf. We're working with other organizations. We're focusing, like young professionals are focusing and just being very intentional about where we are making sure that people are aware that they know that it exists. As before, we were just like, hey, come intern with us, and not realizing that we were missing a whole bunch of people who thought that, oh, that's not for me, or they just had misconceptions of who we are. So in that aspect, Yes. And so just so that you all know, I reside down in Miami. So we kind of have a melting pot to begin with anyway. And people will think, oh, well, you're already in that melting pot. But the crazy thing is, it's not necessarily, because even though it's a melting pot, people still only gravitate to what they know. Right. It's kind of like the whole church thing. There's the most segregated day. Sunday's the most segregated day in the US because everybody goes to what they know. And as much as diverse as the US is, everybody, right? So if they're not necessarily aware of the organization, or it's something that they're not familiar with, they're not going to look to reach out. And we've had many people, once they came in, they're like, oh, I had no idea this even was a thing. And so we've had to be intentional about, hey, accounting in the arts is a thing. You don't always have to go to, I don't know, an accounting firm, sorry, but if you love the arts, hey, they have books that needs to get done too. So stepping out of the traditional, always going to the accounting students or whatever, reaching out to those kids, especially in the arts, because a lot of them realize that they're called starving artists for a reason. And, their mom always telling them they need to go get a job. So now they can still do what they love for an organization that they love, still doing what they're passionate about, and they don't have to give that up. So.
Awesome. And then, Jackie, have you seen any type of changes at PHSC when it comes into people coming into the career service building or anything like that?
We're very diverse and very inclusive. As a matter of fact, many of our managers are working on a certificate from USF currently on that. So very proud of that. Oh, me too. Yeah. I know a lot of people are taking about 110,000 people from like 15 different countries. So we're very proud of that fact. And so we're very, very cognizant of making sure that we hire very diverse. And of course, our students, we have very diverse students as well, which we help, no matter who they are or what they need. The Career Center is there for our students.
And then, Susan, do you want to go ahead and elaborate on this a little bit more with St. Leo? Is there any incentives and stuff going on over there where they're trying to add more diversity and inclusion?
There sure is. We have diversity and inclusion is really an important piece of what we do at St. Leo. It is also one of our career competencies. We've embedded that in the transferable skills we recommend during our career readiness programs for students. One of the things as far as it relates to hiring, and I see that part of the question was in the past year, we have, of course, through COVID, our hiring was slowed, but we're now seeing that starting to ramp up again. And since I get asked to be on a lot of search committees, one of the core pieces of the hiring process is to reduce bias and have a high focus on diversity and inclusion.
Awesome. We're going to go ahead and roll into this next question that is on the screen right now, which is, if you are currently utilizing an internship program, what benefits have you seen from the program? And if you do not have an internship program, what are the red flags stopping you? So if we want to go ahead and start with Jackie, what do you think some of the red flags are stopping most of the people when it comes to starting an internship?
Well, I've been in charge of the internship program for about 10 years, I think. So personally, I owned a furniture business with my husband for about 15 years. So he would occasionally take an intern for us. If a student came in at the last minute, I would reserve him to take the student to help them graduate. So he was a nice safety net for us. So I had some experience that way. And then I've also hired several interns for my office, for the career and testing office. I find them very helpful. They can really help out, contribute to the productivity. There's a lot of great things about interns, but I do want everyone to hear and understand that you do need to have time in order to to train them on what you need, to guide them to when they have questions, make them feel important and valued. I think that's a really big, important thing, and not just run out and get your coffee and not just run out and make your copies. A lot of these students have a lot of great experiences that can help you in your business and your department. So it's important to spend that time at the beginning writing a job description of what you would like for them to do. So that's real important. And you have to have time to do that. And then the other thing that I think is a great idea is to start off projects small, give them feedback, work on anything that you need to work on, and then maybe graduate to a little bit of a larger project so that one, you're helping them build their confidence, and two, they're really going to be able to help you out more if you just devote some time towards the front end. So I think that's really important.
And Nicole, do you think that every company really needs to set up an internship program? Is it, as you can see, some of the responses say they feel there's no need for an intern. Do you feel that every company really could benefit from having that younger generation in there?
I feel every company can benefit. Does every company need one? I I am kind of like, I'm not sure, because if you look at it as, oh, I need to do this and it's a burden, then you don't need to have one, right? Um, One of the most important things about an internship program that people have to remember is that the student is supposed to get more out of it than you do. So like she was saying, that if you don't invest that time, then you're trying to get free labor, and then you're dealing with standard labor acts, and I put that in the resources for y'all to make sure that you're not doing that. But it's, again, time is that thing that you can never get back, and just taking and creating time to make that investment in that company. It might be an hour or two, but what you're going to get on the back end is much greater. So should everyone have one? Absolutely. Because like I said earlier, we're all getting older. We're not going to be here forever. Who's going to bring up the neck? Who's going to keep the torch going? If you want the torch to go out, cool. That's on you. Should you have one? Yes. But if you feel like it's a burden and it's something that you're having to do, then don't do it, because they're going to feel that, and it's not going to be a good situation.
And then Jennifer, so you are exposed to more of the younger people, so you are basically hands-on with these and potential interns.
Yeah.
Do you feel that these kids can really benefit and kind of change? Like, is this next generation really going to be the one to kind of switch it up?
Absolutely. These students they're raring to go. In some of our career and tech ed programs, we've got students 16, 17, 18 building apps for your phone, building robots, graduating high school with their CNA. They are ready. They're 18. They know everything. So they're ready to be adults.
Exactly, right?
So it is an untapped source for for industries, for companies to just provide them the experience, because what I always preach to the students is it's just as important to know what you want to do as it is to know what you don't want to do.
Yes.
And I think internships provide students with that experience. I tell them, you don't want to go to college and spend all this money to then go do your teaching intern and discover this is not at all what you wanted to do. But we have students, young adults that are coming out of high school that can provide so much, like you talked about the tech. And I know our group, we have young entrepreneurs. They're actually competing tonight, but in another state, it was a group of students that wanted to solve a problem and created a tech resource for their grandparents and other people's grandparents. And so they have that thinking that could only be a benefit to the companies here in Pasco.
Can I
Very
just
true.
jump in really
ahead.
quick? Another example that we had at our at the organization we were at, and in terms of, like you're saying, giving small projects, there was a small project that it was very, very important, but it was so time consuming that a lot of people didn't have. So we gave it to our intern. Long story short, she ended up saving the organization like $26,000, and we all are in love with her because it was a waste of time. The project was a waste of time, as a waste of resources. It was a waste of like employee time, and she was able to sit down and calculate all of that and be like, if we stopped doing this, we would save this. Like the next week it was done, and we love her ever since. Ever since.
Yeah. So elaborating on that, if you could go ahead and elaborate on that, Susan, have you seen working in the career services a more eager generation trying to get into the labor force?
Oh, yes, and internships are very important to our students. They are embedded in many programs. So students are very interested. And going back to something Nicole said about if you have a good internship, the information travels like wildfire, and that's true. You will have students lined up behind one intern to slide into that role when their term is over. One of the things I wanted to share, though, is internships can be as informal as formal as you would like them to be for your organization. Informal might even look like a micro internship, which could be a 2-week project-based internship, similar to what the panel was just talking about, to a formal internship that might even require a memorandum of understanding with the university where the student is gaining course credit as well. So one of the things our office tries to do in working with anybody to help reduce any red flags is to meet with you and help assess the needs that you have. And if you want to start in a program-based short-term micro internship, we can help you get started. Internships are great in the fact that you get to recruit once and hire twice. And it can be a good return on your investment when it comes to hiring.
Awesome. I think we're going to go ahead and roll into the next question. Our panel is pretty knowledgeable on the upcoming labor force. So I think one of the things that we need to go ahead and talk about is what are some of the concerns with Pasco's labor market right now? And what is one way as the Pasco EDC that we could go ahead and address that? If you want to go ahead and start, Jennifer, do you think, what are some of the concerns that you've seen with either hirees or just other Pasco companies? What seems like to be the biggest red flag about Pasco's labor market?
Our kids are leaving. They're going outside of Pasco to find careers, or they're going off and getting educated or participating in an apprenticeship, and they're not coming back here. And that's a concern because this county has changed so much and grown so much. We we just need to do a better job, and I mean everybody just needs to do a better job of making those those students, those young adults, aware of the opportunities that are right here in their backyard.
Very true. And then elaborating on that, Nicole, I know you're not from Pasco, but when it comes to adding that younger and that retaining that generation, what do you think some things that Pasco County businesses could go ahead and do to make sure that some of these kids that are going to great schools go ahead and stay in this county?
Make it attractive. Use social media. That's where they are, right? The whole TikTok. I was thinking it was like a nursery rhyme, mouse run up the clock. I was like, oh, it's a thing. Okay, well, whatever. But show them going out doing and like, look, I didn't have to go home or I didn't have to leave. I could stay home to do this. And even if it's like close enough to be home, but not so close that mom could just show up, because a lot of times kids are trying to get about, right? But it's like, look, I'm close enough to be home and look at the amazing job opportunity that I have here and look at what I'm doing and I'm able to give back to back to my community and I'm raising up the next generation. Like make it attractive here and just being honest, right? Like don't let them get fooled by all the stuff that they see down in Miami, right? Because it's a lot of then they get down there and they're like, what? I fell for this, right? Because a lot of times that's what happens. The big city or everything is calling them and they go out there and they're like, I signed up for this. Make home attractive, whatever that looks like. Like show them, I don't know, with their BMW driving down and, down the streets of Pasco and be like, I did this here, however you have to do that, but make it attractive here.
And Jackie, is there anything that you guys have been doing over at PHSC where it's attempting to keep these kids staying in Pasco so they're not having to travel for these internships or anything like that when it comes to the career side of it?
Mostly our interns do stay in Pasco. They don't like to drive to Tampa or drive very far. They're in school, they have families, they're doing homework. In addition, now they're adding that internship component. So I have found that they 95% of the time will stay in Pasco in order to complete that program.
And then Susan, if you could go ahead and elaborate a little bit more also. So it seems like a lot of people are struggling to get that, struggling to basically retain that skill work and have that large Pasco market. So I know St. Leo produces a lot of students. So is there anything over there that's helping kids stay in Pasco so they're not having to drive so far to Tampa or Orlando?
So yes, so we try really hard to make sure that we can find remote opportunities for students so they can get an introduction to the Pasco area employers. The other thing that we see, which is interesting, that might surprise people, even with so many of our students being from out of state, a number of them say we'd like to stay in the area if we can find an opportunity. So quite often it's just not enough knowledge about the area. So that's why we try really hard to promote employers through our recruiting platform and ask employers to talk about your information, just like Nicole said, sharing on social media, especially with our residential campus. These students are everywhere, and being able to put a little more of that information in front of students, and it's interesting because they'll say, well, I'll probably go back home, but if I could find something, I'll stay here. And so it's more about lack of knowledge on their part, which we try really hard to do that. But I can say something all day long to a student, and the same thing an employer will say, and it holds so much more weight. They want to speak to the recruiter, they want to speak to the employer, they want to get connected.
And I don't know if it's like legal to do, I don't know, but like an incentive that would like, hey, if you are a Pasco resident, you get an extra something, like an incentive for Pasco residents that stay here. Check that out with the Fair Standard. Like, I don't know if you'd like throwing stuff out there, but maybe some type of incentive for them to stay as well.
Yeah, I think, well, I'm also from Pasco and I'm interning in Pasco. And it's really just the commute. Florida has, it's a pretty good, when it comes to transportation, Florida does very well, but commuting and drive, there's a lot of people in Florida. So there's a lot of traffic. And going down to Tampa from Pasco is not fun every morning. So I think a lot of kids do want to stay here. It's just trying to fill in those roles. It's really just a logistics portion.
Or going from one side of the county to the other,
That's true.
especially if you have to go by the outlet mall. Transportation's an issue, yes.
Alrighty, I think we're going to go ahead into our next question, which is, this is more for the attendees. What are some of your recruitment goals for the next 12 months? And then are internships a part of this goal? We're going to go ahead and start with Jackie. Have you talked to any companies and stuff like that who don't have internships and try to help them set them up, or try to pair them with interns to, help with the recruitment?
I've had a lot more requests these last couple of months than I have in a long time. So companies want interns. So now we're just trying to grow our students participating in the internship program so that both are increasing at the same rate, because it's not good when a lot of companies want an intern and we don't have enough, or the other way around. So we try to do our resources to increase both at the same time so that we can make companies happy and students.
And Nicole, if you want to go ahead and elaborate on that, it seems like people are trying to have interns fill in these vacant roles and stuff. What is one thing that companies can go ahead and do to benefit from their interns and keep them and retain them afterwards?
Kind of a little bit about what I talked about, I think, in the presentation, is making them feel valued, because I think that will just do it. If I know that when I come in and I spend my time here and you've taken into consideration and you've thought it to be important and woven it into the organization, and I feel valued, I'm going to want to stay as long as I can, especially if you start paying me for it too. What? Okay. But I just think valuing people just goes so far, and it's often overlooked, and it's a huge part of it. So that's That's just what I think.
And then Jennifer, if you want to go ahead and elaborate on that, I know you have a pretty firm grasp on the workforce that is coming up, and we all know that they're pretty talented. Do you think it's really just they're just not finding the right place to go, or it's more they just don't have the opportunity?
I think it's a combination of both. And as a district, we over the last year are working to beef up and really develop a work-based learning continuum. So our students have opportunities for exposure from classroom presentations all the way to an internship under the direction of our new directors, Dr. Moore, Dr. Kim Moore, and Dr. Lori Romano. They see that vision and they know how important career connected learning is. And so we've got a career advisory council, and we've got program advisory councils to help our programs make sure that we're preparing our students for the workforce once they graduate high school. And I do believe with the increased connections that we're beginning to make through those councils, we're going to be able to we learn what's needed, but it's more of a benefit to the students and the teachers that are instructing those students, like what is needed for their student to be successful in that industry. And that will increase the likelihood that a company is going to want our students as interns and then possibly as paid employees.
And then Susan, over at St. Leo, speaking on the industries and stuff, is there anything that you guys have been doing over there to make sure that we stay in the same industry that we are studying or anything like that, so that there's not really that disconnect when it comes to joining a new intern?
So I didn't hear all that. I had a little hiccup in what you asked, but I think you are asking about internships in major.
Yes.
Right. So we definitely, if it's a required internship for the major, we definitely have seen an uptick in recruiting for that. One of the things that has really occurred, especially in the last 3 years, is we see that employers are not as interested in the major as they are in their transferable skills, especially in the area of technology. So we're seeing a wide variety of employers who are interested in aptitude and attitude over the major more often. So we certainly have programs, the more formal programs that are very major specific, but then we're also seeing some of the other internships, whether paid or unpaid, and different term length of time for the internship, whether it's a micro internship or traditional. And we're seeing employers being very open to a number of majors. So that's changed a lot. Going back about 5 years when I first started doing this 10 years ago, and I think that's because of technology and the ability for employers to help students learn the platform quickly for whatever work they're doing. And then they're looking for, do they have the attitude, the aptitude, and the fit to work within their organization?
Thank you, Susan. And then any of the attendees, do you guys have any questions for the panel or anything along those lines? Same with the remote ones. You can go ahead and send them in the chat.
While we're
You go ahead, Dr. Moore.
Thank you. So Jennifer, you talked about advisory councils that we have in our district and the value that they add. How could an organization join a company that would be interested in being a partner to prepare the next generation of workers? How would they be able to join our advisory councils?
Contact Pasco County Schools Career and Tech Ed Department. And I have cards, business cards, for anybody here that's interested. There's a lot of ways to get involved. Like I said, we have the Career Advisory Council, which is kind of on the 30,000 foot level over the district with representatives from multiple industries. But we also have our program advisory councils, which are career cluster specific. So health services is going to have their own advisory council. Engineering and construction would have their own. Business and entrepreneurship, which you'd be surprised at the number of young male students that want to be entrepreneurs. That's their goal. And it used to be, when somebody said that to me, I equated it with, oh, you want to be a professional athlete too, because it was just this thing out there that very few could be successful at, but it's morphed into, it's a degree, it's a program, and there are lots of students that are creative entrepreneurs, um, and they can transfer that into, owning their own business and whatnot. So we've got a lot of different ways to get involved. Um, a lot of different levels, from just advising our instructors, evaluating our technology and our materials that we're using with our students, to actually hosting field trips, hosting job shadowing opportunities, and providing internship opportunities. So there's a whole spectrum of ways to get involved.
Awesome. Is there any last questions? Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and pass it off to Turner. Thank you again to our panel. It was a great discussion that we had.
Is there something that I could just like a last
Go ahead, yeah.
note? So one thing that I just wanted to throw out there in this whole world of internships, and we've all been talking so highly about them because we believe in them and we're passionate about them. But one thing I did want to throw out there is, just because you get one bad intern, don't be like, oh my God, they all suck. Right? Because you could do everything. You could value them. You could pour into them. You could make them feel like, and then some of them are just not just the same way. Like if you get a bad employee, you don't fire your entire workforce, right? You get rid of that one employee. So as you're developing your internship program, it's not all rainbows and unicorns, right? You're going to have those that you're just like, I don't understand what is happening right now. But you handle them the same way you would with an employee that's not successful. You counsel them, you go through a process, you work with them and try to get them to the point where the same way they become a better employee, the same way they become a better intern. And then if it doesn't work out, great. That's why it's an intern. That's when you find out. We find out now that that's not the time for. So don't expect or have the expectation that everybody that comes in, it's gonna work and it's gonna. No, it'd be okay to let people go, because that's a part of growth. It's the same thing you do with your company. But I just want to caution that, because we're up here talking about it, but we've all, I'm sure, had those like, oh, what is happening, right? But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? The same way you prune a tree, you have to cut back in order for it to grow. Think of it that way.
And then, so Christina Sowers had a question. It seems like Susan went ahead and answered it. Susan, if you could go ahead and just elaborate on that. She was asking if there is a pool or like some type of pipeline full of the candidates in Pasco County where companies can go ahead and reach out to them.
So at our institution, like many institutions in Florida, for example, and around the country, we use a professional community called Handshake. And this is something that any employer could either join us or through another organization on Handshake, and have the opportunity to look at profiles and look at resumes of possible candidates. And this platform has a similar feel to, say, LinkedIn, but also a little bit of a Facebook look for our students. So it really appeals to both sides. And there's also an opportunity there for employers to meet virtually with students as well. So when we talk about resume books, like way back in the day, we had resume books. This is kind of your high-tech answer to resume books. So you can put in a set of criteria of what you're looking for, and the system will generate the things that match your parameters.
And then, Jackie, do you also use Handshake at PHSC, or is there another type of medium that you use?
We do, and it's nice that she mentioned that, because what companies can do is you can go ahead and get onto Handshake. And I know St. Lee is on it, we're on it, USF is on it, St. Pete College is on it. So that way you can ask exactly what you want, trying to find an intern, and then you'll have more access to more students that way. And so you'll get more bang for your buck.
Alrighty. I think that wraps it up. If there is no more questions, I'm gonna. My internship? Yes. Yes, I actually. Yeah. So I actually found my internship through Handshake, and it's opened a lot of doors for me. It's kind of like a snowball effect when it comes to interns. So you kind of go in there a little blind, but then once you get in there, you kind of get in the groove of, the business world, and then you meet a lot of people, and then you just create connections from there. So coming to this internship, I've met a lot of people, and it's opened a lot of doors for me, and I know a lot more about what I want to do. So internships, it does help out the intern a lot. I don't know how much I've helped out the Pasco EDC, but they've definitely helped me out a lot. So I am going to hopefully go into economic development. So I stuck here and I seem to like it. So
Very nice.
yep, and that should wrap it up, I believe. So thank you again to the panel. We had a great discussion.
Thank
and
you.
then
Thank
I'm gonna go
you.
ahead and pass it off to Turner Arbery. He's gonna go ahead and close it out for us.
How great was that? Jacob did a wonderful job, and he's been a great intern for us. Round of applause for Jacob. And again, I want to thank all of our panelists and our speakers, Jennifer Batchelor from Pasco County Schools, Nicole R. Smith, Jackie Eden from Pasco Hernando State College, and Susan Mickey from St. Leo University. Thank you all so much for making this a great event. Also want to thank Career Source Pasco Hernando for their support in this event. And this is the first of a series. So we have another event on June 3rd, same place, same time, same format. The topic on that will be apprenticeships. So for our manufacturing partners who kind of want to have that same, benefit of growing their own talent in-house, apprenticeships are a great way and have been very popular with recent legislation to make it even easier for our employers to develop that talent. And we'll have a couple of great speakers from the Florida Department of Education who can help you walk through that process and describe it for you even more. So hopefully see everybody back here on June 3rd. And with that, I think that's about it. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.